All right. I'm Erik Hall. I'm the digital sports editor at the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, and I'm joined by Bill Eichenberger, who was APSE president in 2003, 2004 on Newsday. Thanks for joining me, Bill.
Thanks, Erik. Glad to be here.
So how'd you get involved with APSE?
I'm trying to think of how I first heard about it, but I immediately knew that it was an organization I wanted to be involved in. Just kind of sometimes in a newsroom, as a sports editor, you're often on your own, and to be around like-minded people with the same problems and possible solutions to the problems really appealed to me.
Yeah.
So,
how did you move on to become president then of the organization?
my approach to APSE always was, I said yes to whatever they asked me to do. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And they, as you well know, in APSE, if you find somebody willing to actually do the work, you'll be put to work. So I volunteered. I remember I was telling Malcolm Moran earlier that John Rollins came up to me and he wanted me to do a report on the United States basketball writers at the 1990 Final Four in Denver. And I've been in APSE about 3 or 4 years. I was in Macon, Georgia. And so I go out there and who do I interview but Malcolm, who was then the president of APSE, the president of the United States basketball writers. And we were counting the years. I think that was 32 years ago. So I've been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
So, and it's just, at the APSE convention when I was working in New Orleans, Marvin West, who worked for Scripps Howard, which I don't even think Scripps Howard exists anymore, but he was the head of sports for Scripps Howard, and I barely knew the guy. And he came up to me at that convention and just said to me, Bill, you're going to be the president of this organization someday. And I'm going, what? You have the wrong guy, So, but it like put that idea in my head, and I've really tried to do that over the years when I see people that have potential, because I think a lot of people sell themselves short, and they need somebody that's been down the road to tell them, you can do this too. You can maybe do it better than I did it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What are some things you're proud of when you were president and what you accomplished there?
Well, it was a whole different era in the newspaper business. I think we can ask Jim Jenks, because I did the Philadelphia convention with Jim, but I think we had 138 people at the convention. So, and it was right before the downturn, and was really proud of the program that we put on there. I was a big fan of the movie Remember the Titans, and so I had the real life Herman Boone come, along with Richard Lapchick and Herman Willingham, who was then the coach at Notre Dame, and Damon Evans, who was the African-American athletic director at Georgia, which is my alma mater. And we had a great panel to just talking about the challenges they faced, and the progress we made and the progress we still needed to make. And we just had a really, really good convention. Was very pleased about that. And one of my main initiatives was something called the Sports Management Institute, which has survived sort of. That's one thing that's frustrating about APSE. Glenn, the convention coordinator, and I talk about this a lot, is you can't when you change leadership every year, it's hard to keep something going, because somebody comes in, they don't have the same priority for it that you do. But we had a Sports Management Institute, and I paired up Mike Sherman, who you know, with Glenn in Minneapolis, and I had 3 sets of people that I think really benefited from that. And the idea was to continue it, but it kind of petered out after a few years. So,
but that's still kind of living on with the mentor-mentee program.
Yes, yeah. Because I think to me, that was always the most valuable thing about APSE was, learning from people that were a lot more experienced than I was. So that was always what I remember. The first the first contest judging I went to was in 1986 in Tampa. And my contest chair was Bill Dwyer of the LA Times. And I was scared to death. What am I doing? And this, how that works. What am I doing with this guy? And like, I must admit that when we first started passing the stories around, everybody was putting the plus or the minus on the back of the story. I would glance at it to see what, am I out in left field? But I soon found that what was on there was really what I agreed with anyway.
You've worked on and been a part of a lot of conventions, obviously going back to 1986. What are some other memories of conventions and conferences that stick out to you?
Well, I mean, a guy that was really, really pivotal for my involvement in APSE and in my career was Ed Storin.
Okay.
He took a real interest in me and helped me so much in my career, dropping my name for jobs, which I would have never been considered for otherwise, and was always there for me, a mentor, and one of my biggest cheerleaders. And then just all the people that I met, that I met. My wife jokes that this is my tribe. She doesn't really like to come to these things because it's my people. These are my people, and it really is, because we're all basically, we're all similar. We probably all do this for nothing, although we don't want to tell our bosses that, but right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's something you've always wanted to do, and just been really, really lucky to be able to do it.
Yeah. You've moved into the executive director role now for a little bit. How did you come into that role, and how has that process been?
Tim Stevens asked me to do it, and I said yes. That's how it works.
Yeah.
So that's always my fallback, is if I was asked to do something, I said yes.
Yeah.
And it's been fine. It's been fine. I think like Glenn and I are a real good pair.
Yeah.
We have different strengths and personalities.
Yeah.
So and I really enjoy working with him and his wife Sybil. So that's how it happened.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about what Ed Storin did for you. What has APSE meant to you professionally?
Oh gosh, I mean, you never know how you compare to other people in the business. I was in Macon, Georgia, and I didn't know if what I was doing was right or wrong or good or bad. And you start coming to these judgings, and people praise you and say, "Boy, you really got a good idea." And I went to API early in my career, and that was really eye-opening too. That was very good. Steve Doyle, who was a sports editor in Orlando, was there, and had some high praise for some of the stuff I was doing in Macon, which you really don't know how it plays, And so I mean, that was all. That really helped me to kind of raise my sights on my career.
Yeah.
Like, I think I can maybe accomplish something in this business. So,
what advice would you have for future presidents of APSE?
Have one thing you really want to get done, and focus on that. I mean, it's very easy to get pulled in a bunch of different directions, like in your job in general. Like have a top priority or two, and just focus on that, and try to set it up in a way that it's going to carry on after you leave. That can be hard, because the person coming behind you may have a whole different idea. But focus on one thing at a time, and like, don't be afraid to ask people to do things for you. Which is another thing I've learned. I've learned as a manager. I was way too hands-on early in my career, and I was burning myself out. And you've got to trust your people, and you got to let people do their jobs. So, and the same thing in APSE.
You're executive director now, obviously, of APSE, but what are you doing professionally now?
I'm the assistant managing editor for sports for the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Fantastic sports market. This is like icing on the cake for me. I mean, I'm 68 years old, so most of my colleagues have long since retired. But I had a break as a as an editor. I mean, I left Newsday in 2007, been there for 8 years. And I did a bunch of different things for like 8 or 10 years. You know, I went back out in the field. I was a New York City bureau chief for sporting news, which sounds really impressive, but I was one person bureau. So I was, but I covered sports in New York for 2 years, and I was the only person up there for sporting news. So I was everywhere.
Yeah. And
it was hilarious. You know, you'll appreciate this. I'd be sitting in the Yankee Stadium press box, the phone would ring, the guy next to me, hang up, and he'd say, "Man, my editor, he doesn't understand. Alex Rodriguez is not available before the game. You know, these guys in the office don't know what they're talking about. You know, so, but it was great. It really made me a much better manager and editor because I had firsthand experience of all the challenges they were facing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add about your involvement with APSE or anything else about memories from the organization?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. I mean, there's just a lot of people. I mean, I've worked with such great people that I met and have probably got jobs through APSE. Tim Ellerby in New Orleans was a really talented editor. We were very contest focused there. That was the first place I ever worked where we really thought about the contest. And that was a lot of fun. And again, a great sports market. And I mean, Tim was a really, really creative guy, fun to be around, and have just worked with all kinds of people and have been able to hire people. That's the other advantage. You know, you identify talent.
Yeah.
You know, it's a huge advantage. Like I'm grooming now, hopefully, a guy that's going to take my place at the Review Journal someday. And he was like telling me the other day because I asked him if he would judge. I don't know if he would judge remotely this year. Yeah. And at first he said, well, I wasn't going to do it. And then I said, well, you know, if I'm going to one day ascend, I probably should expand my acquaintances in the business. And he should. So, but I like working with young people. I teach on the side in college as I have time. And so I enjoy that as well. Yeah. I've just been really lucky to be able to do this as a career. You know, I mean, it has its ups and downs, but it's just been a great ride.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
All right. Thanks, Bill.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.